Well. Look at you. Uncelebrated, uninvited, underrated, and yet, somehow, unignorable. You walk into rooms that go quiet. You leave, and the silence becomes a storm. Your name doesn't echo through applause. It reverberates in back channels, in group chats, in nervous glances, in whispers that sound more like prayers or warnings, depending on who's listening. They don't clap for you because clapping is public. Clapping is admitting. Clapping is saying, this person made me feel something, and God forbid they admit you did that. God forbid they admit that the one they laughed at is now the standard they secretly study. But don't be fooled. They saw everything, every move, every evolution, every scar that didn't kill you, but reshaped you into something they can't classify. You're not their peer anymore. You're their problem. See, the paradox is this: they won't support you in sunlight, but your shadow walks home with them. They scroll past your posts in public, but save them in private folders titled Inspiration. They say you changed, but the truth is, you just started behaving in ways their masks couldn't survive around. They don't hate you. They fear what you represent. You became the living, breathing receipts of what happens when someone refuses to stay dead, when someone stops auditioning for validation and starts writing death warrants in silence. They whisper your name like a curse because in their world, you're the glitch in the code. A reminder that control is an illusion, that their little kingdoms of fake smiles and safe dreams can be obliterated by someone who chooses madness over mediocrity. They want to cancel you, but you're uncancelable. They want to outgrow you, but your growth wasn't linear. It was violent, chaotic, sacrilegious. You crawled through hell, not to escape it, but to own it, to wear the flames like a second skin. Now every step you take smells like smoke, and every word you say carries ashes of who you used to be. You didn't level up. You self-destructed and built something non-human in its place. So now, they study you in silence. They take notes like it's an exorcism. They try to decode your next move like it's a cipher from a demon's playbook. And isn't that beautiful? They denied you applause, but now you haunt their curiosity. They denied you praise, but now they pray you never aim your silence at them directly. Because in a world addicted to noise, your lack of validation seeking feels like a threat. They don't clap for you out loud, because to them, your victory is a mirror, one that exposes everything they're pretending to be. You became the thing they feared becoming, because you stopped fearing being misunderstood. And now every moment they spend hiding behind normal is a silent admission that they'd kill for even a taste of your freedom. But freedom has a cost, and you paid it in pain, in betrayal, in nights with no applause, no reassurance, no guidebook. Just your rage, your intuition, and the kind of clarity only darkness can teach. They whisper your name now like a secret, because saying it too loud might conjure you. And deep down, they know. You're not a person anymore. You're a reckoning, a prophecy fulfilled, a demon birthed by denial, who now walks the earth in the skin of someone they should have believed in, and they know it's too late. So keep walking, keep building, keep staying unpredictable. They'll never clap. But their trembling tells the story. Their silence, that's the standing ovation. Their whispers, that's the funeral hymn. For who they thought you'd stay, and you're already gone, but your name stays behind like smoke in their lungs, unshakable, undeniable, unkillable. A curse they cast upon themselves when they chose jealousy over faith. And now they whisper it, like a warning, like a prayer, like the last thing they say before the lights go out. You. Ah. You can feel it now, can't you? That pressure building behind your name. Not because you asked for a crown, but because you stopped asking for permission. See, people don't fear monsters they can see coming. They fear the ones they ignored until it was too late. You weren't loud. You weren't flashy. You didn't throw tantrums for attention or beg for seats at fake tables. You were silent, strategic, deadly. You moved like a rumor and became a reality that rewrote the rules. They whispered because they sensed it before they understood it. The shift, the change, the contamination of their comfort zones by your very existence. And now they're stuck in this loop. They don't want to admit you inspired them because that would expose the hierarchy is gone. That there's no top floor anymore. You blew the building up from the inside. You weren't climbing the ladder. You were setting fire to it, so no one could gatekeep the sky again. They thought they could silence you by exclusion, but you mutated in isolation. You became unmonetizable, unpredictable, and unmanageable. A variable they can't factor into the algorithm, a ghost in the system. And now, you haunt metrics. You ruin their confidence. You interrupt their plans, your moves. They're case studies now. Boardrooms are built around trying to stop what you already finished. They whisper your name like a curse because your blueprint is sacrilege to everything they were taught. Be polite. Stay small. Don't upset the network. Don't outshine the mediocre. Don't scare people by being too different, too smart, too fast, too much. But you were born too much, and instead of shrinking, you became more. You weaponized your wounds. You mastered the art of masking madness with manners. You used pain as pre-workout, revenge as vitamins. You didn't just heal, you weaponized your healing. You didn't just bounce back. You transformed so violently, they needed a new language just to describe you. And since they didn't have one, they started whispering instead. Because that's what people do when they witness something that doesn't fit their script. They whisper, they speculate, they envy, they warn others. Don't get too close to them. They're different now. They're not the same. They've changed. Oh, haven't you? Not the same? Damn right you're not. You're the threat now. Not because you destroy, but because you expose. You make people realize how small their dreams were, how much potential they buried to fit in, how much truth they swallowed just to stay loved. And you? You stopped swallowing. You started spitting fire in rooms full of gasoline smiles. And now, they're watching you burn down the fake with a grin. They whisper because they can't stand the sound of their own mediocrity in comparison to what you've become. You're a reminder that the cage was always open. They just never dared to leave. And now, you walk freely, while they rot politely in compliance, wearing masks, following scripts, fighting for trophies you've already melted down and turned into weapons. You are their myth, their folklore, the what if they'll tell their children about. What if I had gone for it? What if I didn't quit? What if I didn't laugh at them when I could have helped? But it's too late now. The show's over, and the footage. It's already being archived under the one we should have believed in. And you're just getting started. Let them whisper. Let them hold secret meetings. Let them post their little subtweets and vague quotes like digital smoke signals. They think they're subtle. They think they're safe. But deep down, they know. You don't need to announce yourself anymore. Your absence causes more chaos than their entire existence. You don't need applause. You're powered by evidence, by execution, by evolution, by that look in their eyes that says, how the hell did they survive that? You know how? Because you stopped needing them. You became unclappable, unfollowable, unforgivable, unforgettable. And that's why they whisper your name now. Not out of admiration, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear that you're the prototype. Fear that you're not done. Fear that you might return, not with a scream, but with a smirk. Because what you are now, you're what happens when the villain wins. See, they don't fear the you they used to mock. They fear the version that came back immune. Immune to shame, immune to their labels, immune to being triggered by opinions you never subscribed to in the first place. You see, when you evolve in silence, they think you're suffering. But you weren't breaking down. You were recalibrating. You weren't being destroyed. You were becoming dangerous, and by the time they noticed, it was already too late to stop it. They missed their chance to clap when it was safe to support you. Now they fear your glow might expose what they buried, so they pretend not to see you, pretend not to care, pretend you didn't just flip the entire fucking system on its head without a single sponsor, a single cosign, or a single plea for validation. But in private, that's where the real show begins. Behind closed doors, late at night, in whispered conversations between people who swore they'd never mention your name again. You became the ghost in their data, the virus in their beliefs, the face they see when their own reflection looks tired. Because here's the catch. You didn't just win. You did it without playing their game. You didn't compromise your soul, didn't trade your rage for approval, didn't package your trauma into digestible pity content. You took it all, the pain, the doubt, the betrayal, and forged a weapon so sharp it silences entire lineages. That's why the whispers started. Because they realized you weren't just different. You were dangerous to the entire structure. They can't celebrate you. Because to celebrate, you would be to admit they chose comfort over confrontation. That when it was their turn to rise, they folded. And you folded the fucking map and created your own coordinates. Now every time you show up, even just existing, it reactivates their shame files. You're not a person anymore. You are a mirror, and the ugliest truth of all. They never wanted you to fail. They needed you too. Because if someone like you could rise, if someone who came from nothing but nightmares and nerve could suddenly walk like prophecy and talk like fire, then what excuse do they have? None. Zero. Nada. That's the rage they carry now, not at you, but at the proof you became. Proof that suffering isn't the end. Proof that isolation can be used as incubation. Proof that being cast out might have been the greatest cheat code ever designed. But whispering is all they have left. Because admitting your impact would shatter their illusion of superiority. So they minimize, mock, project, deflect, all while their own behavior betrays them. Why do they keep checking your page? Why do they mimic your moves? Why do they bring up your name, even when no one asked? Because you live in their subconscious now, not like a hero, not like a villain, but like a warning that uncontrolled evolution is the one thing they can't defend against. You're not part of their system. You broke the ficking firewall and wrote your own code in a language only the wounded can read. That's the power. That's the horror. Because every word you say now feels like a prophecy, and every move you make feels like karma. With receipts. They don't clap because clapping would mean confession, and they can't confess. so they do the next best thing. They study you in silence. They whisper you in circles. They reduce your revolution to a rumor, hoping that if they call you crazy enough times, they won't have to admit you're correct. But here's what they forgot. The ones they call madmen today are the founders of new worlds tomorrow. And you? You're not a chapter. You're a threat to their entire genre. They can't bookmark you, can't categorize you, can't cancel you, because you were never part of their programming, and that's what makes you terrifying. Not your strength, not your style, not your mind, but the fact that you don't need the machine. You became your own F-seeking signal tower. Broadcasting frequency they can't trace, because they've never been at that altitude. They whisper your name because it comes with heat. They don't want to say it too loud, because it might burn the lies they've built around their identity. But deep down, they know the truth. You are not a trend. You are not a phase. You are not a viral fluke. You are evidence. Evidence that pressure births problems for the system, that isolation forges impossibilities, that being underestimated is the deadliest armor ever worn. So walk like the consequence, talk like the prophecy, move like the glitch they wish they never triggered. Let them keep whispering, because the louder they try to bury your name, the deeper it roots into their legacy. A legacy that will read, "They should have clapped when they had the chance." Oh, so you want to go all the way? Good. Because this part, this is where the mask really slips. You ever notice how the same ones who dismissed you as too much are now borrowing your mannerisms like souvenirs? How the ones who rolled their eyes now roll out watered-down versions of your blueprint and sell it as innovation. That's what they do when the truth is too radioactive to touch directly. They whisper, and then they imitate behind closed doors. Because if they had to credit you publicly, it would redefine the entire food chain. Let's be real. They didn't want to clap because they knew what would follow. If they validated you, even once, they'd have to reevaluate everything they called success. Because you didn't network your way in. You didn't flatter the gatekeepers. You didn't follow the 12-step program for palatable success. You came in like a fault line, and the applause you didn't get. It's the earthquake they feel every time you make a move now. See, there's a reason they whisper, because if they scream your name, it triggers something in the algorithm. It pushes your name higher. It amplifies the signal. It confirms that you were never a fluke. You were the faking formula. They were too afraid to test. You exist like static in their minds now. A frequency that interferes with their regular programming. They try to forget you, but the moment they close their eyes, you're in the replay. Not because you're loud, but because you were undeniable. That's the power of becoming something they couldn't control. You turn into the ghost in their house of lies. You're not knocking on the door anymore. You're already inside, and every fake smile, every performance, every empty clap they give to someone safer than you feels like cheating on their own potential. You ever made someone feel exposed just by existing? You ever walk in and their whole nervous system panics because you remind them of everything they buried? You're not a person to them. You're a reckoning, a mirror with fangs, a reminder that some people didn't need a map. They made the terrain bleed until it shaped itself and around their vision. That's you. The problem child turned blueprint. The outcast turned oracle. The villain turned vantage point. That's why they don't clap. Because deep down, they know this story was never supposed to end with you winning. You were supposed to break. You were supposed to beg. You were supposed to fade quietly into the background while they recycled your energy and sold it in prettier packaging. But you didn't. You pivoted. You mutated. You refused to hand them the ending they scripted for you. And now, every whisper of your name is a glitch in their matrix. Every denied applause turns into a silent scream of regret. Because here's what they'll never admit. They needed you to stay small, not for your sake, but for theirs. Because your growth threatened their stillness. Your voice threatened their silence. Your fire made their comfort look like cowardice. You're not controversial. You're convicting. You don't break rules. You break belief systems. You make people question why they ever played along when they could have just burned the stage like you did. And that's why they whisper, because naming you out loud would force them to confront the lie they live in. You see, applause is clean. Applause is convenient. Applause is safe validation. But whispers are warfare. They mean your name carries consequences. They mean your impact is taboo. They mean people are terrified of what might rise if they say it too loud. Because legends, they get applause. But revolutions, they get silence. They get censorship. They get whispers in rooms with no windows. And right now, that's where your name lives. In war rooms, not in group hugs. On whiteboards, not timelines. On redacted files, not award lists. You are what happens when silence becomes prophecy, and pain becomes the ink you write history in. Let them keep whispering, because every time they do, your myth grows teeth. They call you a curse? Good. Because curses don't die. They haunt until the truth is seen. And you, my friend, you're just getting started, because see, the truth they've never said out loud is that somewhere between your downfall and your reemergence, they realized you weren't just resilient, you were irreversible. They tried to delay you, tried to distract you, tried to discredit you. But they forgot you were never chasing their applause. You were fueling off their silence. Their rejection was your resistance training. Their mockery, that was your calisthenics. Every time they tried to bury you, you studied their hands. You learned the rhythm. You memorized the shovel pattern. And by the time they turned back around, you were behind them. No dirt on your name. No chains on your soul. Just fire. In your fucking eyes. That's the part that breaks them. That's the real horror in the story. That you're still here. After the smear campaigns. After the betrayals. After the doors slammed so hard it echoed in your bones. After the exile. After the psychological crucifixion. You didn't just survive. You studied. You didn't just heal. You engineered a new nervous system. One that doesn't shake. One that doesn't flinch. One that doesn't need permission to burn the entire F-seeking stage down. And now, they whisper because they fear what's coming. Not just who you are now, but what you're becoming next. Because deep down, they know. If this is what you did when you were broken, what the hell happens now that you're awake? They whisper your name because it no longer belongs to you. It's a movement, a myth, a signal in the fog. A ghost code in the system, proof that someone who was counted out can rewrite reality from the shadows. You are not a brand. You are not an identity. You are not a trend. You are the echo of every suppressed scream. You are the product of every denied apology. You are the answer to every cursed question they hoped would stay buried. You don't need revenge. You became the proof. So let them whisper. Let them act like they don't see you. Let them perform their amnesia. Because in every circle, in every dark room, in every strategy meeting disguised as casual conversation, your name is being spoken like thunder waiting for lightning. No claps, No cheers, no banners, just that silent, suffocating knowing that you were the moment all along. And the applause they denied you, you buried it, you fed off it, you turned it into war paint, and now you walk the earth with one truth etched into your spine. You don't need to be celebrated to be unstoppable. You just need to be whispered about. Like a curse no one's brave enough to say twice. So go ahead, smile. Because in the silence of your absence, their world is still shaking.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं, ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं, ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊं कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा, तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू, मेरी रूह का मकान तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा, मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत। मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, दर्द का असर।